Hello and welcome everybody to our second panel talk of today. This is a really exciting one and we've got some incredible speakers again lined up that I am going to introduce you to. But this talk is all about the explosion of sensorial self-care, which if you have been in beauty or if you've been living under a rock, has been a huge explosion in the beauty industry. And I think it is being made even more apparent post-COVID too. So lots to discuss. If you have any questions for our panelists, please pop them in the audience chat. We will try and answer them throughout or at the end. And yeah, I'm going to welcome everybody on. Hello, hello, hello. Are we all here? Have I got everyone? Yes. Good. Hi. How's everybody? And maybe give us a little intro. Lisa, let's start with you. You're top left for me.
Super. Okay, I'm Lisa, head of beauty at Stylus. And Stylus is a global trends intelligence agency. And so we predict, track, and analyze global consumer trends, looking at consumer attitudes and lifestyle shifts, product innovation, and brand engagement. And so I lead all of our beauty trend reporting, covering everything from skincare and Gen Z beauty to wellness and fragrance. And self-care is really something I've been tracking for a while. And so I'm so excited to be talking about it today because it really does feel like we're in the midst of a sort of self-care revolution with the consumer at the core.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. I want all your insights and trends and forecasting. Megan, over to you. Can you give us a bit of an intro?
Yes, so I'm Megan Felton. I'm the co-founder of Leone, and basically you can think of us as a personal stylist for your skin or a personal trainer for your skin, whichever one kind of resonates with you and your lifestyle. But I'm on the ground talking to consumers all day long, every single day, and so have definitely seen a huge shift and excited to talk about this topic. Our service actually is seen as self-care to our clients now. So yeah, excited to dig a little bit deeper.
Amazing, thanks. And Suzanne?
Hi, hello everyone. Leisha, I think when I last saw you, were we drinking sort of Bellinis for breakfast or something? Do you remember at that launch? I think we were. Anyway,
sounds good. I was there.
Get the creative juices flowing. Well, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I have been a journalist within the beauty wellbeing sector for nigh on 30 years. Always makes me sound ancient. I was obviously a child when I started the industry, but it's Sensorial has always been at the core of everything I do. And as a journalist, we're always trying to tell a story through the senses. We're always painting a picture visually. You wanted the reader, and you want the reader to feel like they can smell, touch, and explore the product from the page. And that's always been a really important part of my writing. And Enola is my extra string to my bow. I still write, still doing books and lots of other things, but Enola is my magazine page come to life. I'm like a kid in a sweet shop. And now can all the brands I've been writing about for years and years, founders I've been working with, I've now turned it into a 3D magazine page come to life. And it's very exciting. And it's costing me a lot of money because I buy half of the things that we sell. So yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Suzanne. And Sophia.
Hi. Yeah, hello everyone. It's amazing to be here. I am the founder of a natural skincare, body care and wellness brand called Palmaferonia. So the brand is, self-care is absolutely at the core of the brand. So our products are all crystal infused, based on aromatherapy, herbalism, a little bit of mysticism. So the whole 360 around holistic skincare, holistic body care is so important. It's not just how the product makes you look, it's how it makes you feel, it's how it connects with your spirituality. So the whole holistic side in terms of self-care is really important to us. So yeah, definitely excited to be part of the talk.
Thank you. Sophia. And Zara, over to you.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. Really delighted to be with you today. I'm Zara Lochry. I'm the founder of Alice and Ivy, which is a boutique down on the south coast of England. We sell a huge range of body, face and skin and makeup products, all with well-being at their core. And we provide a really welcoming space for people to come and ask questions and get advice and get some services as well. And it's I'm a relative newbie, so I've been in the business less than a year and the shop's only been open 6 months, but obviously not my first rodeo in that I've had a long corporate career, which was nothing to do with wellness or the beauty industry before that.
Amazing, Zara. Thank you so much. Great, amazing kind of speakers, and it's so nice to have such a variation of retailers, brands, and also journalists, and I guess service provider, I guess, for you, Megan. But let's kick off, Lisa, with you. So you've been analysing the self-care trend for a long time. Where do you think it started? How has it developed? And like, where are we today?
Okay, so I mean, I think self-care really started its journey when wellness became a concept or a buzzword, and specifically when beauty sort of became a key component of wellness and well-being. And if you think back to the days when we were sort of brushing our teeth or doing our hair and makeup, and we were just trying to do them as quickly as possible to get out the house, or for example, when candles were something that was like a once in a while treat or something that you got gifted, you know, we've come so far from those days. And it's kind of become, well, it's because over the years, sort of brands have really cleverly crafted this narrative and this story that we really deserve to take care of ourselves and treat ourselves with their products, and that this isn't a selfish or narcissistic exploit, but instead a sort of necessary part of our general mental and physical health management. And so where we are today is kind of at a point where we're actively inbuilding self-care into little pockets of our day. So whether it's taking some CBD or lighting a candle while we work at home or misting our pillows at night. So, I mean, self-care can take many different forms with many different product categories, and that makes it such a lucrative opportunities for brands right now. I mean, for example, I've put some ashwagandha in my coffee. You know, that's something that I don't think I ever would have done 5 years ago.
I think that's really an interesting spin, because I agree, like it would have been so indulgent to perhaps have done that before. I also just lit some incense before this talk, and it almost was like a bit of an afterthought or a luxury perhaps before, whereas now it's much more part of our routine. And do you think that's kind of a lot to focused on from the global pandemic and COVID?
Oh God, totally. I mean, it's so clear that the pandemic has really sort of catalyzed and accelerated what was already happening in terms of self-care being a trend. You know, we're stuck at home, and some of us with little else to do, we were kind of turning to skincare and baths and massage rituals as a way to sort of take care of ourselves. And there's been some really compelling pandemic learning statistics from Mintel that suggest that consumers around the world are using simple everyday routines like washing their hair as an act of self-care to sort of de-stress and soothe themselves. So it's not even so much that consumers are taking more baths and spending more time on themselves, it's that they're actually doing it with more consideration or more intention. And I think that this shift in thinking has really allowed brands like Alicia Keys' Soul Care to launch and thrive, because they're kind of founded on the principles of beauty and personal care as self-care. Like if you think about Alicia Keys rebranding candles as air care, so care for your air, she would have been laughed out of the boardroom a few years back, but now we're absolutely, you know, we love it, and we're involved in the idea of the surrounding air needing to have a scent or to be cared for.
So true. And I feel like, Megan, when I last spoke to you, this was something that we touched on, that like you're not just providing like a skincare routine to your customers, but you're actually thinking about the whole holistic approach as well, and how stressful your life can be and what that effect has on your skin. Can you talk us a little bit more about the kind of approach from Leone?
Yes. And so I think that we, like Lisa, we kind of like saw this coming. And then during the pandemic, our business totally switched from in-person sessions with people to these online virtual ways to connect with humans, you know? And so what we kind of found is that people were looking for that kind of like daily break in their routine, you know, or something to basically do at home. So people were coming to us and saying, you know, I'm going to invest in myself and do this and like really get the skincare that's right for me. And we're also seeing people sandwich their day with skincare, which is so interesting because it really is kind of one of the first things that you do in the morning and one of the last things that you do before you get into bed. And so it's a great time. And you can see like brands like Wild Source and Giselle LaPointe Moore who are doing these like kind of meditation series around your skincare routine. So you're seeing that. And it's just so interesting because our diet and lifestyle and just our mental well-being and our mental health has such a huge impact on our skin health. And so people are finally starting to make that connection. So when they come to us, we're asking them questions like, how stressed are you? What is your daily routine right now? And we build their kind of skincare routine into that daily routine. But it's everything. I mean, from the kind of things that you drink in the morning, like the ashwagandha in your coffee or lion's mane, we now recommend those things as well. And just little things that you can do throughout your day to kind of help with your skin, just overall, mindset, because you do wear your emotions on your skin for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And both of you, Megan and Lisa, spoke about how brands, I think, are transitioning into this space. And so, Sophia, for you, like your crystal infused skincare is kind of, it lends itself so perfectly to this category. How can you talk us a bit more about how that was a conscious decision and why you decided to go for the crystal element?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned to you before, but in a way, it kind of wasn't a conscious decision. And I think that's because Palmer Ferroni has always been an incredibly selfish endeavor. I didn't ever start it intending to make a business. I started it intending to make products for myself and then family and friends. And self-care, I recognize that with a lot of my friends and family, it's something that they really need to think about. And whereas for me, it's something that's always come quite naturally. I've always been a really big advocate of my little rituals that really bring me back to myself, like my bath, making a cup of tea in the morning or a cup of tea before bed, all of that sort of stuff. Whereas for family and friends, it hasn't been. So whilst it absolutely wasn't intentional, I was just making products for myself and, they were based around a mood or a feeling, and I naturally kind of brought them together. I do really recognize that actually for a lot of people, bundling these things together to make really luxury feeling kind of special products that are a highlight of their day, but will encourage people to, I'm not just going to take my makeup off, I'm going to have a really grounding ritual where I take my makeup off and it's infused with really grounding earth connecting crystals like green moss agate, and the smell is very grounding. So it kind of, the way that it can affect you, not only am I cleansing my skin, but I'm also grounding myself emotionally and spiritually. So it's kind of bundling all of that together. So not intentional, but I do recognize that there's definitely a space for it. And obviously I've continued to work on that with the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that kind of sensorial element. And Suzanne, we lost you there for a second, but I'm glad you're back. We spoke about this too, about Enola, the shop, and how you've really thought about kind of the different elements for your customers when they come into store for them to have that whole experience of nurturing, I guess. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? You might be on mute.
There we are.
Yes,
I just appeared and came back on. So yes, I'm here. As you know, Sam, from our journalism sort of past, I even when beauty was all about lipstick, hair, and the very visual side of beauty, I was always slightly obsessed with the self-care and the well-being side, because to me it just felt, even putting a lipstick on had this huge self-care element. It was about, I'm facing the day, you can call it wall paint, you can call it what you will, but it was all about, I'm gaining confidence, this is making me feel together. So I was always interested, even 25 years ago, of bringing in that well-being side. And it was a struggle with editors and mainstream press at the time. It was a real struggle. And I eventually, even on Good Housekeeping, when I was a beauty director there, brought in a well-being page about 10 years ago. And they were all a bit, well-being page, whatever. And now it's one of the reasons that those regular readers buy those type of magazines, to look at those pages. So it's always been a no-brainer, that sort of vanity-sanity link, that they are so entwined, that the feel better side of beauty. So, of course, then I went into the spa world and was consulting with lots of spa brands and well-being brands, aside with the journalism, because they started to realize, we're talking about 10, 12 years ago, that they were onto something, that the consumer needed a bit more than just the topical results from their products. So because I was writing about spa, which to me really bridged this sort of mental health piece with beauty and with ritual and with regime, because that's what spas are all about, a very ritualistic approach, which also back then was all about having lots of money and going to really expensive spas, but seemed to be the only bridge into that world. Cut to now, as you're saying, you know, from shampoos with little memes on the back saying, take a breath, be present. It's never been more needed. And so with Enola, when you walk in the door, there's a little, and Eliza's busying because we are in the shop today, busying away in the corner, so I maybe won't get her to, well, in fact, do you want to hear our cowbell that when you come in the door? Okay.
Go on, yeah.
While Eliza's doing that. So from the moment you walk in the door, you know, we're trying to engage all the senses. So you might not hear it, but hear that? So you know, it's old school, you know, that's not rocket science here, but you open the door, you hear a cowbell, and that is a cowbell from Wales. You've got an atomize going, we've got the smell going, we've got music that we play, and it's not just any music, it's, you know, from psychedelic therapy music that kind of gets you into that slightly more relaxed sense of consciousness. We've got that going on. Obviously, we've got things to try, product, to touch, to smell. We've got testers everywhere. You know, we do the herbal teas. Again, not rocket science, but it's trying to tap in. And what I love about the brands that we're retailing, and, you know, there's some really interesting brands here that I'd love to discover more about, is it's that we're so disassociated from ourselves now. And I think 2 reasons. One, lofty here, but religion is not like it used to be. So where is that sense of ritual, anointment, candles? Whether you are religious or not, there's something about being in a church which is incredibly communing, you know, we're gathering. So I think that's really interesting, that we're losing that sense of religion. So we're needing to form our own rituals that you got from walking into a church. And I also, because of tech, you know, I love tech. We couldn't be doing this now without technology, but it takes us right up into our head. And if we're on our computers, which we are on our screens most of the day, you're not feeling in, and you're not, so it's back in the room, you know, back in the moment. And that's what we want to do for our customers, because they spend time in here. And sometimes we can't get them to leave because it's the first opportunity they've had for a while to actually, yeah, we're talking about a face wash or a body wash, but before long, we're talking about stress levels. We're talking about insomnia. We're talking about that teenager who's really struggling with anxiety. And it's because we brought them to their senses. Then the real stories start to come out. So, I mean, that's what's been amazing, the vanity sanity aspect to me. I've always brought it into my work, and now to bring it into the community is very enriching for everyone.
And obviously, so you started with a website first for Enola and then launched into a brick and mortar store. What was that transition like as a retailer? Because then I'm going to ask Zara, because Zara did it the other way around. So I'm interested to know.
Yeah, for us, it was, I don't want to sound, I don't know how it happened, but it happened really fast and really quickly. 1 minute, we'd been spending, you know, months building an online platform, me learning about e-com. I mean, I knew nothing. You know, I've always worked for big brands, big publishing companies, and also big brands wanting me to bring self-care into their world, whether it be, you know, the Unilevers and L'Oreals, they're completely what we would associate as non-tactile sensorial brands. So I was kind of thought I was bringing all this knowledge, which I was, but when it came to e-com, I mean, learn running very hard and fast on the ground. And so one day I just woke up, I thought, what am I doing? I miss people. I'm behind this screen. I've got so many women in my community and men that I know well that would love to touch and feel this stuff. And I'm doing all these digital marketing campaigns. Some are working, some are not. Just open a shop on White Hart Lane in Barnes, you know. And now what's happened, it happened really quickly. All of a sudden we're here. Can't quite know how we managed it. And we get daily people walking in the community from 0 to about 500, very engaged audience very quickly. They come in, as I say, they sit, they spend. So it's one of the easiest things I've ever done. I don't know. The e-com side is a work in progress for us, but the bricks and mortar sales have brought in the e-com sales, and I really thought it would be the other way around.
Interesting. And so Zara, for you launched with your brick and mortar store.
Yep.
I'm so interested to know, like, why you decided to go down that avenue before approaching online, and how have you found it?
So I had, for a very long time, I mean, decades, wanted bricks and mortar store, inspired by an incredible shop that was the original boutique in Northern Ireland, which sadly closed. But I had so many amazing memories of being in there, and the senses and the smell and trying things, and just how special it made me feel, because it was such a magical place for me. And then all the great shopping experiences I'd had, because I love retail, and I love physical retail, and I like going out and talking to people and getting to know people who work in shops. So that's what I really wanted to do. And I really wanted to create a place where people could come in and ask for advice and not feel intimidated, because I think that, you know, historically, a lot of the beauty world has felt it's only for the beautiful. And it's, if you're, you know, a mum of, if you're a mum or you're middle-aged going through menopause, that it's not necessarily a place for you. So I wanted to create somewhere really approachable, but also somewhere people could touch and smell and try and get little testers and build a real relationship with them. And also not just about product, but provide services and events for them. So that was really sort of the what inspired me to do that.
Yeah, amazing. And Sophia, I've seen you kind of be present in launches when you've been in store. Do you feel like that in-store presence is, well, it must be completely different from being, I guess, an online retailer? And can you share some of your experiences?
Yeah, like, I consider myself quite lucky that I do have an engaged audience, even though, you know, it's just me and I'm mostly online. But when I do have the opportunity to do in-store things, like I did the Selfridges pop-up last year, just before Christmas, and that was just 5 days of me engaging with existing customers, new customers, people who've never even heard of the brand before. And because there is such the element of the smell, the element of the sound of the crystals in the bottles and things like that, it's all such a big part of the brand that yeah, it not only is it really great for the customers, but it brings back my joy of the brand as well. There are always the moments where I love the brand the most when I'm stood there chatting to people face to face. And you know, the things that are the best sellers face to face are completely different to the things that are the best sellers online, because people want to be able to smell, you know, an aromatherapy balm, see how it feels on their skin, see how it makes them feel. So I have a lot of retail stockists, and I'll always encourage that side of it, because I think it's so important for people to be able to pick it up, feel the weight of the bottle, feel the texture of the label, hear the glass. It's all such a part of the brand experience that you'll get online eventually, but it's just a different shopping experience, obviously.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Megan, for you, you're obviously digital focused. You have your consultations online. When you originally started, they were in person. How has that kind of transitioned? And do you find it easier to recommend things and online, or do you find it when you were with the customer one-to-one, it was easier?
Yeah, so because we don't stock product, typically in person, we were also still encouraging people to go into the store, and I would maybe recommend, you know, 3 different options for moisturizers and say, go in to the shop, try the textures, then let me know which one you like, and I'll kind of like build it into your routine. So there's always been that kind of like, because we want to be unbiased, right? So we've always pushed to other retailers. I find the online really great for us because people can actually take us into their space. And so like they'll pick up their computer and take us into their bathroom and be like, so here's where I'm doing this, you know, here's what it looks like. And so we kind of like talk through their routine like that, which is really great for us because in so many ways, like the skin, it is quite a vulnerable thing. Like Zara was saying, you know, it can be really intimidating to go into a shop. And so we're just trying to empower people with the knowledge they need to then go into a store and say, no, okay, I have a little bit more of an idea of what I need. And, you know, I think that I would love to do pop-ups in store again, but to scale the business, we're kind of like focusing a little bit more on the digital side right now. But I do miss seeing people face to face.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting, like hearing you, Zara and Suzanne, speak about having that like in-person experience. Is you can't beat it. It is so nice to, even like we're virtual now, but just to see your faces and interact with you and stuff. It's so great. Lisa, from your side, what brands do you think are kind of standing out in this space and doing exciting things?
Oh, I have a few. I think Megan mentioned Wild Source. I think that they're really interesting in the sense that they've sort of really inbuilt self-care into their sort of offering, a little bit like Alicia Keys. So you're really looking at something that's about skincare as well as mental health, because they're trying to guide you through this meditation to give you a boosted experience, but also potentially help with your mental health as along with the beauty. And I think that that's where there's an interesting crossover for me. And I think where I feel like the future is going is a lot more clever tailoring towards beauty as like a health exploit. And another brand that I think is kind of tapping into that really nicely is Holistic London. It's a candle brand that started during the pandemic. And they, you know, they just had some simple sort of fragrance blends, nothing, you know, whoop-de-woo about it. But then they sort of shifted once they started getting popular. They rebranded and they shifted their scent profiles, working with Firmenich on a range of blends that are proven to sort of stimulate or alter your mood and your sort of mind state or your mind frame, which I think is really interesting. Again, so it's like, okay, I'm buying this candle because I like the smell, but technically this fragrance, if I'm smelling it, it might make me feel more positive about myself, or it might calm me down. And I think that that's really exciting, because for us, a lot of the innovation that we think has commercial legs, but it's also really exciting for the consumer, is where there's a functional element to a beauty product or a personal care product, like a candle, or you know, functional fragrances is a thing now, which I think is quite exciting. So the idea of like bringing you into nature by spritzing a fragrance is also something that I think is really exciting.
And also really clever, I guess, to sell scent online, because I think that it can be really difficult to understand what something smells like, especially if you don't know what patchouli smells like and you don't know what amber smells like. It can be quite an overwhelming space, it almost by selling by mood. And there's, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there is the department store for the mind, and they have everything where you can filter by mood, which I think is quite interesting. So if you've got anxiety, it gives you different options of things to buy, and if you're stressed, and go Sophia.
We have that on the website.
So you can love that.
I call it filter by energy. So I think it's also great if you're shopping for other people. You know, I get a lot of purchases that are my friends going through a really tough time. And so it might be, you know, actually we need something that's going to be really help you connect spiritually, or something that's going to be very grounding, or something that's going to be very soothing. So, and that's not just across skincare and body care, that's aromatherapy blends or tea blends or all sorts. There's lots of ways that you can shop that on the website as well.
I think that's really interesting. Suzanne, did you have your hand up? Sorry.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things for me is 30 years about writing about all of these elements. And some of it is writing about them again and again and again. You know, some things that one trend that has not changed for me since day one is nature. And Enola, the big thing what we're doing is it's not just about selling green brands and clean brands. It's about the brands that we're working with. You know, there is so much scientific data now about being in nature, and it is the ultimate healer. So it is the ultimate mental health restorer. It's the antidote to stress. It is, you know, what we all need to be doing is spending a lot more time in nature. So we feel that peeling back the layers of what is this mental health piece, and how, you know, is what Lisa's saying, there's commercial legs, but the consumer gets excited, is we want brands that give you that hit of nature from your bathroom cabinet, from your makeup bag, from being on the tube. You know, we're trying to rewild city dwellers. You know, there are more and more people living in cities now, and that's going to keep going up and up and up. So how can we give them the nature hit? And whether that is by the smell, you know, I want people to open a jar of something and feel the squelchy mud and the forage dandelions from the certain brands. And that's what's so important, because, you know, the creative visualization piece is very important. And if you can visualize that meadow, if you can visualize that forest where the sage that Sophia's selling has come from, you know, it's reconnecting us to the planet. And if I can have one legacy, instead of hitting people over the head with the stick about global warming, if I can help them fall in love with nature rather than lecture them, and we can start to create more of an affinity with nature because we are part of it, then job done. And if we do that via some beautiful shower gels and beautiful candles, then that to me is what we're all doing, which is so powerful, because the planet as well as the people really need supporting right now. And I think that's what's so wonderful, what the sensorial piece is doing. It's reminding us that we are We are sentient beings. You know, we feel, we have emotions, and all of the products that all of these fantastic brands make, the founders, the love that they pour into their products, you know, you wrap that up in some eco brown paper and someone goes home with it, or they gifts it to someone. We're doing a huge amount for mental health, and we just cannot forget that.
Yeah, 100%. Lisa.
Hi, sorry, can I just jump in after what
That's
Suzanne was talking about nature? We've seen in terms of sort of fragrance trends, the green smells, the smells that sort of take you back into nature, rather than, say, for example, gourmand flavors like vanilla or ultra sweet florals, are really, really resonating. And I think what's interesting as well is that it's opening up a space, for example, like Hakel's, a lot of their candles don't smell very nice, but they're very nature focused, very, very earthy, very seaweedy, mushroomy almost in some ways. And actually these are becoming more popular than the ultra sweet sort of typical flavors that we might be expecting from consumers buying perfumes or candles. So I definitely think that, without even knowing it, I think the consumer really does want to sort of bring nature into their homes. And what I think is particularly clever is the inclusion of phytosanoids. So it's a sort of compound that plants give off, and it helps to sort of calm this nervous system in the body. And there's some functional fragrances out there that have that inbuilt into the formula. So I think that's a really exciting space.
Really interesting. And Sophia, for you, when you're formulating, obviously the scent is so important, but have you found that kind of having those sort of grounding, earthy, mossy almost scents have been more welcomed from your customers?
So would you say that one of the products I've got in testing at the moment is a salt blend that is oak moss is one of the key ingredients, and Icelandic moss. So it's all about, I don't want to call it forest bathing because I think that's a term that a lot of people are using at the moment, but there's something about walking into a damp forest and feeling that heady smell. It's like so recognizable, and I just think that's instantly grounding. But I know I'd mentioned to you before, when I formulate, it's probably, well, I don't know anyone else who kind of approaches it in this way, but it's kind of almost like a mood board comes to me. So it's the colors, it's the you know, like images in my head of, like my latest launch, the Terramari polish, is the earth, it's the sea, it's the smell of the sea, the smell of the ground, the way that makes you feel. And it's all of the colors, the textures, the smells, everything kind of coming together from the beginning, not just once I have a product. So it's always a mood based for me, as opposed to necessarily just functional. You know, I back my products, they're great and will be great for your skin, but it's more about the mood that's creating. So, you know, I'm making a deep glow facial oil, but actually that's all around, you know, sunshine and confidence and joy. Or a grounding bath elixir, which is really about kind of heady vetiver and smoke and bringing you back to yourself, and grounding tourmaline. So there's always a mood that I kind of formulate off of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of helps you guys as retailers like sell the story almost for the customer, as well as it being kind of a holistic approach. You get to basically share the stories of these brands, why they've chosen to use certain scents. And Zara, do you want to talk about a few brands that you're loving that you have in store?
Yeah, so I'm just building on what Sophia said as well, is actually knowing someone and knowing their name and their face and being able to talk about them when we talk about the brands is massively important, because particularly where I'm based, there is a great support of local business, local communities, and people really like independent businesses. So when I'm able to talk about the independent businesses and the people behind them, that connects really well with people. One of the brands that we're absolutely loving is Bayo. Made by Beth in Dorset, and what has really been a massive hook for that is her hand cream, which the smell is what hooks people. You just see people when you put it on their skin, they walk around the rest of the time sniffing it, and that's absolutely incredible. Another one is Lola's Apothecary, so Dom down in Devon, with his incredible aromatherapy products, but they're just so evocative in terms of luxury and happiness, and people getting a sense that either they're buying it as a gift for someone else, so they're really investing in them, or when people are buying it for themselves, and you can see them when they put it on, they take the care they're taking, just trying it is amazing. And we're also so Skin Alchemist. So Teresa in London with her unbelievable, she's calling them soaps. They're not. They're a spa in a bar. And even my burly rugby playing husband, who has zero interest in anything to do with well-being or skincare, has become obsessed with those and insisted on buying them and paying me full price. So that worked quite well. But for me, it's around that, you know, people walk into the shop and they go, oh my God, it smells incredible in here. So that within the very human aspect. And also things like I've written down about your Deep Glow facial oil, Sophia, because that's the sort of thing we want to get people into, because it's then about like facial massage. It's free. You can do it with any product. And it's, I think, a really underrated piece of skincare is facial massage. So anything that gets people spending time with themselves, connecting with themselves, thinking about what makes them happy. And smell is the sense most closely linked to memory. So if we can get people into a space where either the smell and the routine is grounding them, that they're in a safe space, it's their time, that will help. Or also if they're connecting back to a smell that they know and love, whether that's nature, whether that's from their childhood, from their past, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Megan, for you, obviously you're recommending products, but also sort of the practices like facial massage and tools and things. What are you seeing kind of pop up and trending and be most popular at the moment?
Yeah, so there's a lot around LED right now. So LED light and that kind of like it's having a total moment. And not just LED light for your face, but also for your body, for your neck and things like that. And the thing that I like about at-home LED is that it kind of, I mean, you can do little other tasks while you're doing it, but it does blind you a bit. So you need to take that moment, whether it be 3 to 15 minutes, to just kind of breathe and just relax. And so I really like the idea of taking that moment after you wash your face to, kind of, just breathe and use your LED. And then the other one that we're seeing a lot is dry brushing. So things to like actually awaken your body in the morning. So dry brushing is big, obviously not on your face, but on your body. And I think that body care in general, not just like facial care or, we've talked a lot about like scent, but body care is also having a huge moment. And so there are brands like Necessary, which obviously is a little bit more of like a big Space and K, type brand, but they are doing things for the body that are amazing. And I think that our body has been so neglected. We like just stop kind of at the neck. And so really excited to see the body having that moment in the spotlight. And so a lot of our clients, we used to have like a morning routine, night routine section. Now we've actually added a body section and a holistic section. So in the holistic section, there's meditation. So like I said, Gisela Pumpmore, she does the meditations, but also skin circles, which I think is really interesting because a lot of people that have skin conditions, if it is something deeper in their body that they can't necessarily change or treat with skincare, there is this moment of kind of needing to accept the skin condition and live with the skin condition and still be able to be confident. And so allowing that space in those skin circles is really interesting, and that kind of self-care element. So we include things like that for the mind. And then also Lisa mentioned earlier her ashwagandha, but definitely these kind of adaptogens we're seeing have a big impact in just generally kind of free radical damage is a huge issue when it comes to the skin. And so addressing free radical damage and inflammation in the body with things like adaptogens can be really helpful. So, powders that you put in your coffee from brands like Dirty, which I'm fully obsessed with, or Deja, for example, can be really helpful. And even if it's, some people are very skeptical, I'm not, I totally believe in it, but it is just that kind of moment of self-care to put something in your coffee and mix it and warm your milk up and just take that moment in the morning for you. So yeah, those are kind of the things that we're seeing at the moment.
Love that. And Suzanne, you mentioned that when in the store you've got a diffuser going to really kind of encapsulate that smell and experience. Are there any other kind of rituals that you're sort of recommending being kind of one-to-one with your customers?
I think one of the most important things, especially for women, is the word pleasure. And yes, it can conjure up the world of sexuality. That is a new, really important space for us because so many women actually have never been taught about pleasure. And what we are doing is when women come in and they are touching a product and they're smelling an oil, is we do talk about, you know, how much time do you give yourself? Do you allow yourself pleasure when you're massaging in that beautiful oil? You know, are you thinking of the to-do list and, you know, what you got to get ready for your kids for the morning, or, you know, the shopping list or whatever it is? You know, we're really trying to bring in this, whatever you're using, whichever brand you're choosing, whatever you want to do, is to really allow yourself that time, because it really saddens me that still in this day and age, women are coming in and they're putting themselves at the bottom of the pile and they're trying to paste themselves back together with certain products. So the pleasure element of really allowing that time for yourself is so important to us. And I think, you know, we talked about some of the facial massage and those brands, anything that brings touch and tactility into, so we're really encouraging them to not just massage your face because it's really good for giving yourself nice appley cheeks or keeping your jowl, you know. It's not about the beauty, it's not about how you look for us. We say that's the bonus. It's all about when you touch your face, magic happens, and it's not just quickly rub it on and get out the door, as Lisa said at the beginning. It's really allowing and giving yourself permission for pleasure. So that's very, very important. And so that's why people like, you know, we're about the product, the practice, and the practitioner. And a really important thing that we do at Anoda is sitting here at the makers table. We do invite our founders and their experts to come in and really teach women, because, you know, unless you're using that product to the best of its potential as well, you're not going to really get the most of it. So it's getting women around the table, and men are welcome to, and just experiencing the practice and that practitioner as well. And you know, Sam, as well, my days when I was editing the Tap the Spa guide, I'd go to these amazing spas and you'd come back going, all of this sounds amazing, all of this sounds wonderful, but which ones are actually for me, and how do I join those dots up? How do I work it into my day? So that's what, and I've got the ducket list, which, as the name suggests, it's the products, practices, and practitioners you should try before you die. And that's what we try and do, is just for that individual, is work out how to weave these moments in of all these brands, all these experiences, because it can be overwhelming. I find it overwhelming, so I want to try so much, and so does the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa, for you, I mean, we've spoken before about trends, and that whole personalization element is obviously so key and important right now. What for you over the next sort of like 5 years within this self-care space do you kind of project to be huge?
Well, I guess it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about health and beauty kind of marrying in much more intelligent, exciting ways. Again, I think, you know, someone mentioned about, I think it was Sophia, you said that you know, your morning cup of tea is a nice little ritual for you. And it makes me laugh because, again, like 5 years ago, people were coming down making a cup of tea hungover, like, ugh. And now it's like green tea and lovely vessels. And, you know, I think it's going that way. But I guess within that, we need to really focus, or at least brands need to focus on sort of decolonizing wellness. I think it needs to be an inclusive exploit. I think price points need to be considered here, so that luxuries are for everybody. All of these everyday little luxuries are for everybody. And within that, I think it's also important to consider where a lot of these ideas have come from. So not necessarily culturally appropriating things like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine and the sort of institutions that these ideas have come from, or at least to celebrate and respect those, I think is going to be more of a thing. And just to go back on what Suzanne mentioned earlier as well, I think, you know, we do need to bring men into this a lot more, and they are. The younger generation are definitely responding to traditional views of masculinity and grooming in a totally different way, and it's quite exciting. But I think that there's a lot that could be done from a brand side, and I think will be done into bringing men into the conversation, and not just because commercially it's very worthwhile.
Absolutely. And for you, Sophia, have you ever thought about, I mean, do you have men as customers, and is that a growing sector for you? Would you like to expand it into the male category?
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought of my brand as being only for women, and I do have a reasonable chunk of male customers. you know, I think one of my most regular customers is an ex-boyfriend of one of my friends, who I don't think he realizes I pack the orders. So I still see him regularly buying the helichrysum and oat cream, which I will say is £62 a jar. So he definitely doesn't buy it. You know, he definitely is into it. Very regular. So I never intended to start a female-only brand, and I think, you know, the branding isn't super girly. I've kind of always just been led by the products, and well, it's because I never started a business intending to start a business, right? So I never scoped out my ideal customer, but that it is something I'm always aware of, and it's something, you know, I always kind of think about when we're like shooting content or things like this, because I don't ever want to isolate the male customer base. And a lot of the interaction that I get from male customers at the moment is, oh, my boyfriend found the moon balm on, you know, my side of the bed, and he won't go to sleep at night now without kind of covering it on his hands or whatever, you know. So there's a lot of that goes on, but it's something that I'm always aware of and kind of thinking about. And I never have tried to push one gender more than another, but I think just the self-care, skincare, beauty world does just swing more heavily one way, and it's about opening the door. And I think brands, we will always need to work more on kind of opening the door to men and kind of inviting them in, and yeah. So it's something I'm always thinking about. But
I do think that, like, the new wave of sort of wellness self-care brands are very genderless, and I think that is so purposeful and meaningful and intended, and I exactly probably for that reason. Like, it's fine for a man to have a moon balm in their bathroom cabinet as well as it is for a woman. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to ask my final question, but if anyone does have any other questions for panelists, please pop them in the chat. So I'm going to finish up with just asking each of you, what is your go-to sensorial self-care routine? Suzanne.
Oh, that's sneaky, Sam, throwing that in.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, well, really has it got to be one thing?
Well, you can say a few things.
Okay, I have to. I can't. Well, I mean, Vedic meditation is my absolute go-to without fail. Have to do it every day, twice a day. Shower for the mind, shower for the soul. Have to do that is my first and foremost. So I don't go a day without doing a 20-minute twice a day. And if anyone had said to me 5 years ago, you'll be meditating twice a day for 20 to 30 minutes, I haven't got time for that. And actually it banks me time, and I'm more productive because I spend that time doing it. So that's a no-brainer, literally. I mean, aromatherapy for me, using those therapeutic grade oils to work with my mood, to calm me or revitalize me. So I love aerotherapy at the moment. It's a really wonderful and very democratically priced, genderless range with fabulous products, that one by the bedside, one in the handbag, rollables. I've kind of got one somewhere on me at all times. And that's using the breath. Breath work is such an important thing right now. So I will be bringing that smell in with, there's always a practice with the breath. And then bath. I mean, I'm the author of Bathe. Of course, I'm going to mention bath. I love Alviran bath oil, Siberian fur. It gives me that I am forest bathing, but I'm also liquid bathing, and that the sort of shamanistic clearing of the energy via the Siberian fur. So it would be meditation, aromatherapy, and water and bathing, and digital detoxing while I'm in the bath, because that's probably the one room in the house where there is no digital. And I'm always worried I'll drop it in the bath. So when I have read the newspaper in the bath, I end up going, no, what am I doing? Put the phone outside.
Love that. Lisa, what about for you?
Oh, I feel like mine's going to be a little bit less wellness. I really just like making a martini at the end of the day. While listening to Hawaiian lounge music. But if I was going to choose something that was product related, I'd probably say I really have, as my hair has grown a bit longer ago, I've started really getting involved with sort of hair oiling and massaging of the hair. Also, I feel like lockdowns made a little bit of it fall out. So that's part of a sort of either daily or weekly ritual that I'm really enjoying, and I find it quite sensorial if I'm using products that have lovely smells, which most of them do. So yeah, that's me, I'd say.
Amazing. Sorry for the dog barking in the background. My puppy has just decided now is his time that he wants to tell his story of what his self-care routine is. Megan, what about for you?
So mine is really just my kind of like nighttime skincare routine. Even if it is just taking a couple minutes, it's that sandwich, like I said, of the day. So my mornings are a little bit hectic because I'm not necessarily a morning person, but my night times I'm like wide awake and just taking that moment to myself. On the weekends, it's different. I think that I do my journaling on the weekends. And, you know, I also am a big into the Enneagram. And so I find that really a great kind of self-care thing. I do that, a coaching session, an hour a week on that. So yeah, but daily, I should probably be better now that I'm hearing you guys and all of your rituals, but I think it's just that nighttime routine, skincare routine.
Nice. Love that. And Sophia, what about for you?
Yeah, so the kind of the beginning and the end of my day are really like bookmarked with kind of my core self-care rituals. And I'll be really honest, I suffer with quite bad anxiety that's different points in my life, been medicated at different levels. And I've found that one of the massive things that help is I'll turn my phone on after the morning self-care and I'll turn my phone off before the evening self-care. So in the morning, that's, you know, getting up, my skincare routine, which is naturally quite mindful. And then I'll always take a moment, I'll brew a pot of tea. I'm a big fan of green tea and oolong tea. Brew a pot, I will use my aromatherapy roll-ons, pull a tarot card, set my intentions for the day, phone on, day starts. And then in the evening, that's running myself a bath, which is like, if you made me pick one part of it, the bath would be the biggest bit. Running a bath and then taking the time to dry body brush and massage oil into my skin afterwards, skincare routine, and then brew another pot of tea as well before bed. So it's kind of bookmarks my day, and everything in between. It can be as chaotic as anything, but as long as I've got those two parts either side, I'm good.
You've had a good day. Nice.
Yeah.
And Zara, finally for you.
So for me, a lot of it's about facial massage just at night when I'm cleansing and I'm putting some oil on. Also, if sort of my treat to myself is having reflexology done. I just adore reflexology. I think it's one of the most amazing things ever. And I'm very, very fond of a red lipstick. And just putting red lipstick on in the different types of red and different textures. It always cheers me up. And I love that whilst we're talking, and we know that sort of self-care and wellness is something very current. If we look back at trends of during war, like right back to the Second World War, sales of lipsticks actually went up. And certainly, I think people knew subconsciously then that actually putting a bit of lipstick on, which is probably literal war paint in some ways, has been really helpful. And I think then it sounds to me also though going around to Lisa's, if I'm ever in the locale near her place for a martini and some Hawaiian lounge music, it sounds absolutely amazing.
Love it. I love the simplicity of just like putting on some music or having a cup of tea, and then the indulgent things as well. It's so great. Just to finish off, one thing that Suzanne wanted to mention is more about the kind of brands that she's working with and the hub that she's creating. Do you want to share a little bit more about it, Suzanne, before we finish up?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, you know, what's really important to me as an editor as well as founder, I've got a thrill out of connecting people and introducing people. So while I'm doing that with customers now, with brands, it's fantastic and they're loving it. But I just would love to find out more from not just Curate, but anyone listening and watching this, what brands they're working on and how it can fit in with us. And it's quite an exciting thing. We've just launched literally this week is the Enola in-house PR. And what it's really important because, you know, so good at storytelling, you know, should be after all these years of being a journalist at high level publications, is we're really wanting to take the brands that we're working with on that journey. And we've created this almost like a democratic fractional ownership PR that brands that can't afford PR, which let's face it, most brands can't, is everyone kind of pays into the PR pot. And so when we're doing our work throughout the year and throughout the seasons, we're talking to different publications, many of which I know the editors. I've either worked for them, they work for me. You know, we all work very closely together. So when I'm telling the Enola story, obviously I talk about the brands we retail and the founders and the practitioners and practices that we talk about through those brands. So I just wanted people to know that that's available, and those brands and founders that think I could really do with some PR but I can't afford it, talk to us, you know, because we're really wanting to get the localism, the independent, the natural, the clean, the ethical, and the democratic. So come and have a cup of tea in store, or we'll do a Zoom.
Great, thank you, Suzanne, for that. And then we do have one quick question, apart from Irene, who says she's coming around to Lisa's for martinis also. You may have a few people knocking at your door. What are your tips for making time for sensorial self-care? I mean, we've kind of, I feel like, spoken a little bit about that and what everyone's kind of own pleasures are, but does anyone want to add anything to that?
I'd just say start off by whatever you have time for now, embellish that bit. So if you're cleansing your face, do it with a product that makes you feel amazing, that makes you feel really special, and just make sure that you're applying it and using it in a way. So try and build up from there, because sometimes if you think you've got to try and fit a whole massive routine in, it can seem overwhelming. So for me, it would be start small by making what you do already feel really special.
Love that. And Sophia,
exactly what I was going to say. Like, you know, like I mentioned, my morning cup of tea, it'd be very easy for me to grab a rubbish tea bag and just chuck it in and walk away. You know, I have a little station where my tea is. I've got my selection of loose leaf teas and a teapot that I absolutely love and is just really special to me. And using things that you love and that are special and mean something to you, and having, you know, for me that might be having my crystals nearby, and that then goes from making a morning cup of tea to making a pot of tea that's going to last me all day and has been made with absolute intention and lots of care, and it just becomes a really lovely part of my day that just wouldn't necessarily be otherwise. So yeah, and also alongside that is I'd say be really mindful in that practice. Because Suzanne, I'm like rubbish at meditation. I always have been, but I'm very good at being mindful. So just focusing on that one thing that you're doing for that amount of time and really put everything into that, I think is a good tip.
Yeah, do it with intention, be mindful, and don't just slap on your cream, because that could be your one moment if you've got 2 minutes at the end of the day to actually just enjoy putting your face cream on or your cleanser.
Which is why it's all about bringing you to your senses, isn't it, Sam? Which is why you chose such a great topic for us all today, because it's you know, when we come to our senses, we smell, we feel, we touch, we listen. That's when we're back in the room, we're back in our bodies. So yeah, very important.
Absolutely. Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much. This was such an interesting conversation, and each of you have brought such a great perspective, and so I really appreciate your time, for being here, for those watching. If you've got any feedback, please share with us, but otherwise thank you all for being here and for speaking and taking your time out of your busy schedules, and hopefully you'll stick around and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.